idea how he's doing.
Platner watch is over, but Mitch McConnell watch is still ongoing. Graham Platner dropped out of the Maine Senate race on Wednesday while admitting no wrongdoing. But as is tradition, he blamed Democrats for his own personal shortcomings. In today's other top stories, Trump is bored with the ceasefire in Iran, so that's over.
To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people.
And we also may have started a trade war with Spain.
Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore, by the way. I'd like you to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. So we don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them.
So you had issues with leaders of Spain, UK.
Yeah. Spain, I will say, I did have issues with
Also
Spain,
Germany.
and I still do. But Spain came back all the way today.
It was a really tumultuous day for Donald as his hand-me-down plane from Qatar is already suspiciously out of service. He was court-ordered to finally pay E. Jean Carroll $5 million for assault and defamation. And speaking of money owed, Prince Harry has quite a large bill due. We have these stories and more to get into. I'm Sammy Sage, and this is the Morning Announcements, your 10-minute rundown of current events and the best way to always know what the going on. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Kentucky's governor had to write his own senator a letter to ask if he's okay. As we know, Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized for 3 weeks. No one will say why. His wife off to China. And Donald Trump just blew up the Republican Party's attempts to pretend they just had a 20-minute phone call with him.
I have no idea how he's doing.
In case you're wondering why people keep tweeting about that, it's because 2 senators and the guy who yells on CNN, Scott Jennings, each separately claimed that they spoke with him in the past 3 days, suddenly, after no one had heard from him for weeks.
He called me this morning before I did my radio show. We talked for about 17 minutes.
So Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear got out a Democrat's favorite tool, a letter, to Mitch demanding that he update his constituents, the residents of Kentucky, on his health status. This is kind of urgent because Mitch needs to be out of that seat officially, through whatever course of events the universe has planned for him, by August 4th, in order for there to be a special election, which many people suspect Representative Thomas Massie could enter to spoil the Republicans' plans. All I have to say is that I suspect this is exactly how Mitch McConnell would have wanted to go out, screwing the Democrats out of yet another seat. Apparently his soul's mission on this earth. Graham Platner is out of the Maine Senate race, and he went out blazing. He ended his Senate campaign Wednesday night with an 11-minute video, swinging at the corporate media, the Democratic Party, and quote-unquote, large forces that were trying to take him down personally. Graham notably does not like this outcome, but the people of Maine and all of America only have one person to blame, and that's Graham Platner. Here's what comes next. Maine's Democratic Party announced that they're holding an in-person convention with about 600 people to determine his replacement before the July 27th deadline. It appears they're still working through the details of this process, since the state's party charter doesn't spell out an exact procedure, just that it needs to be in accordance with state law and the party charter. Clear your calendars, Maine 600. In more big news for terrible men, when Trump wasn't falling asleep at Nato yesterday, he was setting it all on fire.
Communism's easy to sell. I would be the greatest communist in history. I'd be right up there with Lenin.
He started the day by declaring the Iran ceasefire over.
I'm not sure I want to make a deal with them. We can play games, but I'm not sure I want to make a deal. I just finished the job.
Reminded everyone that he's #1 on TikTok.
I like being #1 on TikTok better, but I'm #1 on the list for killing. I've been right about everything, and I have been for a long time. That's how I got to be president 3 times.
Berated Europe for not getting involved with his Iran war on demand. Then he randomly switched gears entirely.
If you could have seen the respect and the love in the room, and it's love really for the country, for our country. I don't want to say me because you'll say, oh, he's so conceited. He's such a conceited person. But they do. I mean, you know, they like the job I'm doing. They said, sir, we love you. These are grown people saying that. Isn't that nice? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get to me.
For a meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who he called President Putin.
You have a question for President Putin, please?
Most consequential, though, if true, is that Trump signed off the summit by affirming the United States' quote, ironclad commitment to upholding Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which says that an attack on one NATO member is an attack on them all, and would require them to defend each other. Earth to Vladimir Putin, that one's for you.
President Putin said, I would love to meet in Moscow. And I said, I don't think, I have to put myself in his position. I don't know that he'd go to Moscow. Maybe he would. Would you go to Moscow?
It's difficult. There are a lot of Ukrainian drones there. That's right.
It was dangerous.
And in one final blow, Donald was forced to depart Turkey, not on his newly refurbished hand-me-down plane from Qatar, but on an old Air Force One plane, which he said was, quote, for old time's sake. Okay. And then went on a weird ramble about how he wanted to let U.S. service members tour the hand-me-down plane at an airbase in England.
Flying to Europe to one of the big bases, 2 or 3 of the big bases, where we can show it to the people. And we'll be going home by normal methods. But we have it going to Europe to a couple of bases, actually one in particular, but it's going to go to a couple of bases stop so the soldiers can see it because it's truly magnificent. Yep.
It's unclear why he couldn't actually take the new plane, but when asked if it was because of an assassination threat, he didn't answer, but said, quote, I'm #1 on the kill list for Iran. Just like TikTok.
The life of a president is very dangerous.
This is so stupid, I need to stop talking about it. It was, however, a rare day of consequences for Teflon Don. Donald finally had to pay E. Jean Carroll the $5.8 million damages award that he owes her for sexual abuse and defamation after his appeals ran out and a federal judge ordered the money released from a court escrow account with interest that's been accrued since the verdict. Wonderful. Now his balance owed to E. Jean Carroll is a mere $83 million. And speaking of owing money, Prince Harry sued the Daily Mail for invading his privacy and lost. And as a result, he could end up owing tens of millions of pounds in attorney's fees. Here's what happened. Harry, along with 6 other prominent figures, including Elton John and his husband, Elizabeth Hurley, and Sadie Frost, sued the Daily Mail over claims that they used unlawful methods to source stories, in other words, tapping their phones, which goes back to the News of the World scandal. But the court made a final determination yesterday to dismiss all their claims, stating in a 436-page verdict, was Clarence Thomas on the court? That Harry and the others had not proven that any information about them that had been published had been obtained unlawfully, and that there remained legitimate and realistic ways it could have been legally sourced. And just as they could have hypothetically gotten a massive settlement from the Daily Mail's publisher if they won the case, now that group could owe £50 million in attorney's fees. Harry and Meghan are going to have to sell a lot of jam and flour sprinkles. And just to see you off for the day, we have another messed up renovation by Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. This has been the Morning Announcements. I'm Sammy Sage, and now you know what the fuck is going on. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you get every episode right when it comes out.